All right. Well, I'm gonna go back to square one, and this is almost a year that we've been actually since we started this. It's actually a year ago today. We finally got our solar panels linked up, and so we're actually working off the sun from that time. It was a year ago today, so it was really. I think we started a little bit before that, so it's probably more than a year that we've been meeting almost every Sunday to do this heart to heart connection. And it's good to go back to square one, and especially if you're absolutely new or just coming in the last couple of weeks to give you just an overview of this thing. It'll be good for all of us. Um, I read this poem early on, maybe the first, it might have been the first thing, and maybe you missed it. It's a poem I wrote the day my grandson Devin was born. So years ago, he's 13 now. But it's called Everybody's Journey because I really want you to think about what we're doing here as we're journeying somewhere together. And it's more of a long walk we're doing rather than some kind of a formal service or anything. No, it's not like that. So this is the poem, and then we'll just sort of jump into the work. All of us come wailing into this world, trailing clouds of glory that are all too soon forgotten. I'm looking over at the altar here. I got a picture of Devin taken when he was born, and he was just wailing. And it's pretty much like all of us came out. All of us come wailing into this world, trailing clouds of glory that are all too soon forgotten. And there we are once again, feeling like we're nobody. Well, with a little help from our friends, our mentors, our therapists, or lifetimes of struggle, we can become somebody. But only then, via some sort of contemplative practice, can we become everybody. All of us, without exception, are at one point or another on this journey from nobody to somebody to everybody. So walk on, my brothers and sisters, walk on, and never forget to remember who you really are. So all of us are somewhere on this journey from nobody to somebody to everybody. We start out with really, we're just, and those three levels correspond to the three levels of intelligence that we're gifted with as human beings. Before we're anybody, before we even had a name, and before we're even baptized, if that happens to you, we're just you know we're just this little animal creature. We got a lot of potential, but right at the beginning we're just working off of instinct, and our instinct is not as it's probably the weakest instinct in the whole animal kingdom. It takes months before we can turn over. A young horse, a young little foal is up on his legs gambling around in short order. But we're like, you know, and we have probably the weakest instinct of the whole animal kingdom. But we've got a couple of other surprises that are front loaded in there, and given some time, we get named, and then we start growing, and we're growing this. We're coming into this second level of intelligence, of a way to handle the world, and it's as the cerebral cortex starts to form and build, and then the left brain kicks in. Around the time they send us to school, or even a little earlier than that, and then we're going to school and really working this thing out. So we've got the second brain. First the instinctive brain they call the old brain, and then cerebral cortex, left brain, logic, and all that stuff. Words. It takes a while to get words. Einstein didn't speak any words until he was well over 4 years old. They thought he was retarded because he had thoughts before words, but he didn't have words to match up with them. It's a really interesting guy. But so then we got words with his left brain stuff, and now we got a name, and we see we're different than our mommy, and then we see our siblings, our daddy. We start to recognize that there's others. But then we start to become somebody. You could be the golden child, you could be the problem child. That's how it usually starts out, especially if you have siblings and whatever. You're the girl or you're the boy, or we all start to have these containers, and then you go to grade school and in kindergarten and grade school. I got expelled from nursery school, by the way. So that was a container right there. But you start to pick up these things, you know. You pick up these containers, these roles, and then you start to. These are all your somebodies. I wrote a long poem, and after I was, I led a retreat, and I said, "All right, these roles are like containers." Uh, and you're the golden child, and you're an altar boy, then you're a basketball player. We have all these roles, then your boyfriend, then you're a college student. You go through all these roles. Then you're a husband, and then you're a sorry husband, and then you're a reborn husband. You could have all these roles, all along the way, and that's just what it is to be somebody. We have these ego roles that are like containers that sort of contain us. And we have multiple containers. That's the first half of life. You got to do it. Nobody skips from nobody to everybody. And what does it mean to be everybody? See? But the first half of life is about building a container that you can function with. All of a sudden you're a husband or a wife, then you're your father or mother, your brother or sister growing up. We have these roles. The problem is we identify with them and hold on to them, and they sort of hold you back sometimes. Yeah, they're necessary, but they can hold you back. Like any container is like a fixed limit, you see, on the road to the journey to become everybody. That doesn't mean you lose your. I mean, I'm still a husband. But then, I've got friends who, when their wife died, now they're not a husband, they're a widower. So life is like, it keeps flowing on. Or you're a newlywed, or you're a divorcee, or, we get these labels. A lot of them that aren't even into our control, you know. Imagine if you're a person of color, you're a person of color to everybody. That's the first thing they see, you say. When you get off the plane in Haiti as a white person, it's all reversed because you're like a marshmallow going into a sea of hot chocolate there. That's when I bring people into Haiti. That's the roles are reversed. The roles are reversed. So this is all first half of life stuff. So when you go into the second half of life, you're on the road from being somebody to being everybody. And that doesn't mean literally everybody. That just means now as these containers break down, because these containers, one way or another, they're limiting or blocking your access to the heart. See, that's the third level of intelligence. So old brain, brainstem, reptilian brain, whatever you want to call it, and then upgrade to left brain, logical mind, words, strategies. It's all wonderful. And then the ultimate upgrade is to start to learn how to access the heart. Again, not the literal heart, but the symbolic heart, which means it's a deeper level. The heart sees everything as a whole. The mind looks at these 25 squares and sees these 25 people here, all, got a line between you all. The heart doesn't see it that way. The heart sees a beloved community here. See, and so that's the deepest level of consciousness, and that is the journey to more and more bring all of these online. You wouldn't want to lose your brainstem because that's fight or flight. That's existence, that's survival and stuff. And if you don't survive, you got to come back again to evolve. You want to survive. There's a Sister Elaine, who passed off away this year, as some of you know. She was one of our members, left at 90 through COVID. Beautiful woman. Well, one of her buddies, Sister Vincent de Paul, just celebrated her 110th birthday out at the, and she's there with a cake, grinning like a raccoon. You know, she gives, and she was wonderful. She's still in the habit walking with her walker and such. Came to the retreat I gave this year, and she was so happy with the retreat because she just walked. Now this is at 110. I didn't know how old she was. She came up and she says, "I'll always remember what you said." And I said, "Well, what was that, sister?" And she says, "God loves me and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to hold on to that." And I said, "Well, oh, great. That's great." And, so to go 109 years and be waiting for that message, I was glad to deliver it. Same to you, same to you. So, we're all on this journey. She'd been there, she'd been there probably 90 years. And, she probably went in her 20s and she's 110, maybe she'd been there 100 years. And finally she got the word. Well, what does that do to you when you realize that God loves you and there's nothing you can do about it? You start to you lose the container. You start to lose the container. I mean, this container is containing all this stuff, but it's a limit. It's these guys, these people, these saints that we know in all the traditions, Rumis, the Teresa of Avila's, the Buddhas, Jesus. These are people who they were definitely somebody. They had an ego. They wouldn't have been able to do what they did without it. So there's nothing wrong with the container, the ego structure. It just has got to be permeable. And it did, at some point or another, it's sort of permeable. And so you have this ego so you can deal with life's, life's demands, but it doesn't really block your heart, doesn't block this deeper consciousness, which it really loves. See? And we're all on this journey. That's the way I see it. We're all walking together. And this is an amazing thing for a year. A lot of us have been walking together on Sundays, and then some are showing up for the other ones on the once a month on Saturday. But in a way, we're all walking on this road. Now, we could be all over the place. I mean, I got a college kid from Colorado who I'm starting to work with, and amazing little kid. But, he's not where we are. He's still immortal. He's still in that phase, but still he's an old soul. And so, but we're all on the road, whether we know it or not. And so it's just a privilege to walk together. Now, what really came out yesterday in the retreat was when you add more silence to this community, to any community, you're adding more access to God, to something unbelievable, the power that runs this whole thing, whatever you want to call it. The G word's a stopper for some of you, don't use it. But there's something that's created, 100 million galaxies in our own Milky Way, let alone what else is out there. And somehow it's all created us. And that's a power. And when you add more silence to it, like we had 90 minutes of silence yesterday, it's essentially, it does things to people. So we're basically starting out with some words, just a little bit of soul talk. Then now in a minute, we're going to go to the meditation. So we're going into formal silence where we're going to try to drop the body and mind into the heart and just make ourselves available, available space. Here I am. And we go into, I call it the original I-thou relationship. Because when you can drop in the silence of meditation or contemplation, you are truly an I without roles, naked in a way, with what Buber called the I-thou relationship. It's not an I-it relationship anymore. You're not in it, and nobody else is in it. You're into this I-thou relationship, which is a powerful relationship. So we drop down there for a little bit. And then when we come up, Then we open the floor and we go to the third part, which is really becoming more and more of a contemplative conversation as we were adding more and more silence to the way the group talks to one another. So the amount of silence is building up in a group like this. It's beautiful, beautiful. So okay, so we're gonna try to go into meditation mode now, into the silence, and so you might want to adjust your posture a little bit. Uh, oh, yes. I'm gonna try to turn off my do not. Yeah. Okay. So we're going into some silence. And one thing on your meditation posture, just this is just Buddhist tidbits. Uh, notice where your chin is when you sit with your eyes shut. Notice where your chin is. The Buddhists, if you want pasta, you go to Italian restaurant. You don't go to Japanese restaurant. But if you want, you really want to go a little further with your meditation, you stay with the Buddhists too, because they've been doing this far longer than anybody else. This kind of meditation, and uh, when you sit up straight, if you're sitting, you might be laying on the ground, which would be a different situation. Mostly, it's sitting up straight, and I see people who are like this. They're back like this, and you're kinking the flow of everything in your spinal cord, the whole what they call the central channel. So good Buddhist posture is just to you sit and your head's like a bobblehead right on top, and you just tuck your chin a little bit. That gives you what my first teacher said. That gives you some strength in the sitting. And when you fall asleep, you go like this. And when you start fantasizing about your next love affair, you tend to go up a little. It's just that's just how it works with the head. So try to keep it just sort of level, but then tuck the chin a little bit, and then maybe feel it how it like it could move back. Your ears could move back over your shoulders a little bit. That's a really a balanced sitting. And basically, if your head is back like this, you're pinching that central channel, so you're stopping flow. So you might play around with that a little bit. Just notice, you know, tuck your chin in a little bit, move your ears back over your shoulders, and then you're perfect, almost perfectly balanced, which is a nice way to sit. Okay, so let's begin.